And we're back, Tolkien Fanatics, with our next match play guide scenario breakdown video. And we are on the fourth one. So we are halfway through now with this first set of 6 that I promised. And so far, we have talked about, well, you have listened along graciously, thankfully. But so far, we've talked about Domination, To the Death, and Reconnoiter. Scenario or pools 2, 4, and 5 for hold objective, kill the enemy, and maneuvering, respectively, across those 3 I listed. So today I'm going to try and keep actually on a little bit of a similar note to my last one, which was Reconnoiter, which was a movement-based scenario. Movement, maneuvering, tomato, tomato. And I'm actually going to talk about one that's similar, at least scoring-wise, with how you score the majority of victory points. But it can be a bit of an annoying one. And this is going to be from Pool 1. Some people are sitting here groaning already. Oh god, not Pool 1. For those who don't know, Pool 1 is, of course, everybody's favorite Maelstrom of battle scenarios. I know, let's do it together. Yes. Personally, I hate Maelstrom battle scenarios. A lot of armies are built specifically in order to get synergy and cohesion working together. There are armies out there that don't really require that kind of thing. I'm just going to throw one out there. Goblin Town really doesn't need to have everybody together in order to, just get a horde of guys. But of course, being together still helps them because the more guys that can drop in one area, the better the horde, capability is. Rohan is one that definitely wants to be together, especially the Legendary Legions, where a lot of those rely on the main heroes giving the bonuses to the army in order to make them really work. On their own, they're okay. Sometimes you can win, but overall, you have a much better chance of winning when your army's together. And Maelstrom's battle scenarios literally just goes, fuck it. For lack of a better term, fuck it. We ain't gonna let you do that. We're just gonna throw you willy-nilly all over the place, or you have to spend copious amounts of your precious resources in order to maintain that synergy that your army uses. So let's talk about hold ground. That is the scenario from Pool 1 that I'm going to be specifically choosing for this video, and that is scenario 3. So Maelstrom, we're just going to go ahead and get straight into it. There is no deployment. It is the same thing as the Reconnoiter scenario where nobody's on the board at the end of turn 1. You come in via reinforcements. So, that being said, I'm going to read through this, and I'm going to tell you what a lot of folks do. So, Maelstrom of battle. At the end of your move phase, roll a d6 for each of your warbands not on the battlefield and consult the chart below. You can use your Warband's leader's might in order to might your roll up or down in order to affect your outcome. Models cannot charge in the turn they arrive, but may they act otherwise normally. That means you can come on and cast a spell, you can move on half and shoot, so on and so forth, but you can't come on and charge, which means if you move in and you're near an enemy, you have to maintain that 1 inch for control zones. So, roll for each warband separately, deploy the models in the warband if the d6 allows, then roll for the next. Warbands yet to arrive count as being on the battlefield for purposes of determining if your force is broken. So I will say, that's a good caveat to have right there at the end. But unless you're playing like a really small game, I've never seen a warband not get on the battlefield. So yeah, I guess maybe if you're playing like, 300 points or something, and you've got 2 tiny warbands and one of them gets on the board, and then the other one just can't get on for whatever reason. They don't have enough might in order to make, get the roll you want, or you just keep rolling ones over and over again, and you know that coming in puts you in a really bad position, so you just don't come on. And then the one warband that gets on gets completely wiped out. That would probably be the only scenario I see where warbands yet to arrive count as being on the battlefield for purposes of determining being broken. Otherwise, I've never seen that come into play. So the results are as follows. If you roll a 1, your warband doesn't come on. You roll a 2, You have to come in from a north or south board edge, but not at least 6 inches from a corner. Your opponent chooses this too. A 3, your opponent chooses east or west. All of these have to be at least 6 inches from a board edge, so I'm not going to say it over and over again. We'll just fill that in from here on, from 2 through 6. 4, you choose north or south. 5, your opponent chooses east or west. 6, you choose anywhere on the board. So this is also key. Again, talking back with Reconnoiter, you come on from a singular point. So if you do this, the hero comes in from that point, and then every model comes in from that point after that. Meaning, unless you do not move your entire full movement, you're going to be coming in an arc if you move full out with your hero. This can kind of hamstring you a bit because of the fact if your hero is mounted and your warband's not, and you move in the full 10 inches, you could potentially not get everybody within 6. So, moving along. This is a scenario, hold ground, where once one team is broken, the game could randomly end on a 1 or 2. So, yeah. We've talked about the deployment. We've talked about how you get on. You know, there is no deployment. You roll for reinforcements. Broken, game could end. What is the objective of the game? Well, the objective is simple. You're trying to get to the middle. So there's a central objective marker, and then you're trying to get within 6 inches of that marker. So basically, there's a 12-inch diameter around the central objective marker that you're trying to get to. So for Reconnoiter, you're trying to get off the board on your opponent's side. This time, you're just trying to get to the center of the board. A little easier movement-wise, but again, it makes it hard because with your army potentially dispersed all around the board, you're going to lose that synergy, and if your opponent ends up getting lucky enough to, come on all together, they can really move around and just beat up on one warband. And this happens a lot. I see this a lot of times. So people will usually spend might points just in, the rolls for reinforcements to might their stuff from a 3 to a 4 or a 2 to a 1. And that's usually the common goal. It's like nobody wants a 2 or 3. So might points are usually spent either to bring it down from a 2 to a 1 so they don't come on at all, and they hope that they get a better roll next time, or a 3 up to a 4 where they get the choice for the north or south board edge. As for board edges, you and your opponent have to decide at the beginning of the game where north, south, east, and west are. That's just pretty much there. Deployment, starting positions. Like I said, nobody's on the board, just like Reconnoiter. Now, see, for Reconnoiter, it's the same thing. You come in at the end of the movement phase. Well, since this kind of makes it really hard for your army to come in, technically, by the way the rules in the book are written, your first priority, you don't want to win it. Because if you win it, then after your movement phase, which is going to instantly happen because you have no models to move, all your army comes on, and it's going to come in wherever, and you're not going to know where exactly to use your might points because you don't know where your opponent's at. So then that being said, it gives your opponent a huge advantage losing that priority roll, because then they can spend might points as much as they want in order to influence their warbands to really get in a position to either gang up on, say, maybe your leader and outnumber them 2, 3, 4 to 1 and just gank them right there and score some easy VPs, or they can use it to get their army in a position where they're not going to have to worry about your army coming after them, and then really maneuver and set it up so that they can win. So this really puts the first player at a disadvantage. So that being said, that's if you play it based off the way the rules are written. A lot of TOs will specifically say that this scenario, you're going to alternate rolling for warbands for deployment. So instead of just coming to the table and going, okay, congratulations, you have first turn priority. No, we're going to go ahead and skip that and say that we're going to deploy, but we're going to alternate bringing warbands on. And that usually kind of like normal, where you deploy alternating warbands, only this time you're still going to follow the Maelstrom rules. That seems to balance the scenario out a little bit. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think this has been FAQ'd in any FAQs yet to reflect that. But the majority of events I have been to, I won't say all of them because some folks don't do that, majority of the events I've been to, that's how they play it. They will alternate. I will say this, when I run an event, hold ground is one of the few scenarios I will adamantly choose not to put in, just because of the fact that I know that it really screws up synergy with armies. And a lot of the armies I play are very synergistic, if that's a word. It sounds cool, so we'll say synergistic. And so I know there's probably some folks out there going, "Oh, what the hell, man? That's not part of the game. I mean, what's the challenge then?" There's plenty of other challenges, trust me. If you need to play hold ground to look for a challenge to deploy your army all willy-nilly, then great for you, but a lot of folks don't like this scenario. So that being said, though, you do see it. It is still pretty frequent, just because of the fact that it does make you really have to think and strategize in order to win. And the objective is simple. Get to the center. So if you get more models to the middle 12-inch diameter than your opponent, you score, VPs. If you double, you score more, and if you triple, you score the most. And that's how you get your majority of your VPs, is by controlling the center. So there is a caveat in place. If you have one of your own models in the center and your enemy has none, you count for having tripled your opponent, which is really cool, because there's actually a game where I was playing against Khazad-dûm, and we literally deployed in a corner. We spent our might points to deploy in a corner and just fought each other and fought each other and fought each other. And then the last turn or two, as time was ticking by, I was playing with a Gondor Fiefdoms Rohan alliance, and I had Boromir, Captain of Gondor, Knight of whatever he is, Captain of Gondor, White Tower Boromir, whatever, big Boromir with the banner. And I maneuvered him using heroic combats to get him to the edge, so that on the last turn I did a heroic combat and then ran him 10 inches into the middle of the board, and he was the only guy there, so I got the majority of the VPs just for doing that. So this is one also where breaking your opponent gets you more than killing the enemy leaders. So something to focus on there is trying to break and be unbroken, because that's the other caveat is, you get 1 for wounding the leader, 2 for killing. But if you break and you're also broken, then you basically just nullified each other's VPs there back to a draw. So you want to break your opponent but be unbroken, and that's going to get you more than straight up killing the enemy leader. So take that into your tactics as well. Honestly, I don't really, for tactics for how to win the scenario, just look back at Reconnoiter. That's what I would say. Same thing from that. As for movement and things of that nature, this is probably one where a shooting heavy army is not going to like it, because your opponent is probably definitely going to spend their might points in order to influence their rolls so they can get on top of your warbands that are bow heavy to nullify your shooting bonus, so to speak. You might get a turn, you might get 2, but they're definitely going to spend their might points in an ability, in a way to do so. For armies that lack might points, I hope you roll good. If you're like me and roll absolute dog shit all the time, then you're going to have a hard time with this scenario if you don't have a lot of might in your army. There's definitely some armies out there that have Maelstrom bonuses. Iron Hills, Minas Tirith with Madril. I think there's another one, but those are the only 2 that come to my mind off the top of my head. If there's another, leave a comment below. That way I can remember it next time. Because there's 2 more Maelstrom scenarios to talk about in the future. Yay. So, yep, that's pretty much everything. I highly recommend practicing this scenario, both playing it with the alternating deployment rolls, my warband, your warband, my warband. That seems to be, again, more even, because then you both have the chance to spend might points by seeing what your opponent does. I prefer that. A lot of people prefer that. Most TOs prefer that. But again, you're going to have those, asshole TOs that just are like, nope, we're playing it straight as the book says, because the book is God. And again, it is a matched play guide. I mean, you go for a hike in the mountains, you got a guidebook, but you can go off the beaten path to explore and find new things. That's how you make new paths, is by going off the path and finding a new one. So that's kind of how the whole alternating thing. We went off the beaten path of what the rule book said and found a better way to do it. But it is a good idea to practice it that way, because if you run into an event that has hold ground or has Maelstrom, either of the other 2 Maelstrom scenarios, and you have to go one at a time. You need to have a plan in place in your head. Okay, if I lose deployment, or if I win priority for the first turn, how much might am I going to spend for each warband? How much am I willing to give up in order to get my army to do this, that, or the other? Or am I willing to just have it separated because of the fact that my army can operate independently with separate units? Some armies can do that, some armies can't, like I said already. So yes. That is everything I can say about Hold Ground for now. Just at 15 and a half minutes, so maybe I can do this last little spiel again under 16. We'll see. Thanks, guys, for watching. Please like, share, subscribe. Let's beat those damn YouTube algorithms and analytics and all that crap like always. And I will see you next time on a Tolkien Fanatics video. Take care and enjoy your Tolkien Legendaria.